When it comes to AI and the nonprofit sector, I would love to see what you think about it.
Philanthropy was very systematically also very white-led. There's a lot of grants and money in philanthropy that's still only available to who you know, and we are not in that space. Man, I've worked with organizations who write all of their donors in an agenda, but it's not sustainable. Once they type write me a strategic plan or write me a fundraising campaign, they're more bought into it because, oh my God, this could save me time. At least with AI, it's also how to use it ethically and responsibly. Make sure you review what you're promising the funder to do with that money. Because ChatGPT will absolutely promise world peace, and you can't do that. So staying true to what your program actually does is important. AI is very well received. It's not going away. It's the future of working, learning, understand how it works, and how can you implement it so that you could take away some of the hats that you wear.
Thanks for tuning in to Privian AI Spotlight. I started this show because AI is changing everything, and most people have no idea how fast. So each week, I'm sitting down with real operators, founders, educators, and people inside of the system AI is already touching. No hype, just real conversation about what's actually happening behind the scenes. So if you want to stay ahead of what's coming, tap subscribe. Now let's get into today's conversation. Welcome back to the Privian AI Spotlight. Today, I'm sitting with Dr. Andrea Ortega, the CEO and founder of Palante Nonprofits, who does incredible work, as you might have guessed through the company name, in the nonprofit sector. She holds a PhD in public administration and has dedicated over a decade in leading successful nonprofits organization and service teams. And today, we'll discover how AI is impacting the nonprofit world. So, Dr. Ortega, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me here. Super excited to be here with you.
For those who do not know you and those who want to kind of discover more about the nonprofit world, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your industry?
Of course. So, nobody grows up saying I want to be in the nonprofit sector. I grew up like every other Latina, first generation immigrant, wanting to be a doctor. And, I think it was in college when I took the MCATs and I realized that this was not for me. And I had been volunteering with a nonprofit organization who worked abroad in Colombia for many years. And upon graduation, I sort of kind of landed taking over the organization. And ever since then, I've been in the nonprofit sector. At least for me, it's one, rewarding, obviously, being able to help people who help so much, right? Because each organization has kind of their own mission and things that they're set out to do to help the community. And so for me, it's like I know that my work is multiplied through all of the organizations I work with, but also I'm kind of really freaking good at it. And I say that because I am someone who I do think I was given a gift of people just kind of migrating towards and understanding, and I'm very creative and I'm a team player. And so using kind of my gifts to do that for organizations has been really the highlight of my professional career. And that's how I got started in the nonprofit sector. I got a PhD because obviously I love learning and I love teaching, but academia, I'm a hands-on girly, practitioner, I like being in there with the org. So I kind of did not end up going the academia route, but luckily I was able to finish. And then I am Colombian. I was born in Colombia. I moved to Miami when I was 8. And, so for me, representing mi comunidad and really helping us to thrive has been also a part of me, which is how Palante started, because philanthropy was very, systematically also very white-led. There's a lot of grants and money in philanthropy that's still only available to who you know. And we are not in that space. So Palante really is to help these organizations with Hispanic-led leader, BIPOC-led, and how to teach them how to get in the room, how to be grant ready, how they can enhance their fundraising, staying authentically, not saying that you shouldn't throw a gala, but you really shouldn't throw a gala. Maybe throw a carne asada, staying authentic to our roots to help these organizations fundraise is really a big part of my job. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, for sure. I really like the name Palante. I think as a, Dominican, just a Latino myself, I think that word it carries a lot of weight and actually can inspire a lot of people. But can you tell me a little bit more about how you came up with that name and what is it that you're
Oh my
trying to
gosh.
inspire people with that specific name?
Interestingly enough, so Palante actually, like the idea had been there for a long time. I've been in consulting, either, like a lead consultant or director of service teams and for a consulting firm. And so, I had always been in that space, but I really had to launch Palante out of survival. I was laid off my job 6 months pregnant. And I was like, well, what more sign from God do I need than time to do my own thing? Because I also thought I was gonna launch it and then eventually go back to the workforce because I do like, being a part of the team. Being an entrepreneur is also very hard.
For sure.
I don't, people can glamorize it whatever they want, but at the end of the day, I'm the marketer, sales, all of the things. I kind of was in this moment where I just have to keep moving forward. Like I have to keep moving forward. It doesn't matter that they laid me off. It doesn't matter that in 3 months I'm getting pregnant with my third child. Like none of that matters. I just have to move forward. And I think all of that also with watching organizations throughout my time in different roles is that Hispanic, Hispanos, like we as a community are always moving palante. We are always having to go through all of these things, and no matter what, like we'll still go to work and show up. Oh, it's a hot day. I'm still gonna pick your food, giving a tribute to our farm workers who work here. And they still, no, it doesn't matter the circumstances, they still show up. And we also carry, like, at least for me, I know I carried for a long time, like, my parents sacrificed so much to be here and give me opportunities, so I have to show up. I have to move forward. I have to do the next right and big thing. And so I kinda wanted to honor that we shouldn't have to be go-getters all the time, but we are. So, like, how do I keep my organizations moving forward was a really big part of it. And I think my slogan is like, we're in the business of moving communities forward because, like I mentioned earlier, organizations I get to work with have their own mission, purpose, and issue that they're trying to solve or help mitigate. So me being a part of that, I know that estoy dejando like my little piece of knowledge, of support, of resources to help them continue to do that. And that's what Palante is here to do.
No, that's amazing. And I know that you also support, nonprofits from the grassroots, all the way to, being implemented and doing their mission. So I saw something on your website in regards to like technology and implementation. So Palante is all about moving forward. And I think even with the mindset of
Yeah.
moving forward, we have to keep up with trends. And as you know, we're talking about AI. So when it comes to AI and the nonprofit sector, I would love to kind of pick your brain to see what you think about it.
Yeah, that's actually really big too with the orgs I work with because there are bigger organizations. And if you look at when I say bigger, like 10 million, $50 million budget organizations, the ones that you see, American Red Cross, United Ways, they have for a long time built systems to work for them, either for being able to segment their donors and build, donor stewardship pipelines and really understand how to use technology to work for them and to fundraise for them. Pero mi gente, like, man, I've worked with organizations who like write all of their donors in una agenda, like in an agenda. Like
Mhm.
I love my people. We're like we move palante with whatever we got. And so, but it's like a part of me, it's like you can keep doing that, but it's not sustainable because if you get lost and your agenda gets lost, where is all everything, And I'm not saying everybody does that. Obviously, I come across orgs who do have everything in their G Drive or their G Suite and, are able to start building systems. But I do think there is a huge gap and there's a huge tech gap for organizations that are more, Hispanic led, at least the ones I've gotten a chance to work with. And I have to come in from a place of earning their trust so that they let me see their processes before I go do this, do that. I've also been very humbled by working with organizations who are just not ready to make the leap. And I say that because they have been working with their community and, like I might want to come in and say, use this tool to segment your donors in email, but they might not read it because they have an actual WhatsApp group with all of their community that is very responsive and very active. So my job is literally to learn and immerse myself into their operations so then I can offer little by little what they can implement. AI, luckily, I think everybody, once they see it, once they type write me a strategic plan or write me, a fundraising campaign. Once they see it, like kind of do it, they're more bought into it because, oh my God, this could save me time. So I think, once it's introduced, at least with AI, it's also how to use it ethically and responsibly. A lot of them, um, you know, you shouldn't upload all of your donor information on there. Like make sure you have the paid version where you can turn off, AI learning from your data and different things like that. So like I try to come more of like I learn what their process is, start observing, taking notes so that we can kind of implement it correctly. AI is, I would say, very well received because again, once you see the power of it, you're like, oh my God, this can make me I already wear 20 hats. ChatGPT can be like my next person that hats get taken away. But then I come in and be like, let me teach you how to do it correctly. Yes, you can probably say, ChatGPT, write me a strategic plan, but it'll make up things unless you feed it information, right? So you have to feed it the right information. So let's transfer over everything you have written in that notebook of ideas. Let's decide what's actually going to work and what you're planning to do next year or next quarter. And let's start building and challenging it, right? I like to think of AI as also like it will give you stuff because it's artificial intelligence. It's your job to make sure that you are giving it enough information that it'll fill in the gaps where needed, but stay true to what you're trying to do. So I do a lot of that kind of work when
Mhm.
implementing, but with nonprofits, it's not as easy as I will say, okay, I have a small business, team 3, they want to implement AI and like, okay, let's do it. Maybe they're very tech savvy or they already have integrations, with all of this tool, but the orgs I work with tend to not have that. So how do I ease them into and usually I take it about one process at a time.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's super important because I believe every nonprofit would have their own unique problems. And many times it's because they work with, a lot of people. They have a lot of tribal knowledge that sometimes is not documented. And I guess it's kind of your mission to dissect that and then look at their processes with a ego point of view and then make those suggestions. So I know with that, you need to gain trust. And I know that comes with a lot of patience. And so when we look at the idea of, again, like tribal knowledge or things kind of scattered everywhere, have you had an idea of how AI can be used that can be implemented within different workflows that you see as a common theme within nonprofits?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot. People tend to run to AI to maybe like the fundraising side, right? How can I use this to make money? But I like to use it. I would start first with the foundation, like internal operations, because at the end of the day, fundraising, yes, AI can help, at the end of the day, fundraising is still building a personal relationship, with the funder, with your donor. So I actually would say AI is really important for your operations. What are you doing day to day, week to week, that is repetitive that maybe we can use AI to replace or anything? What is one thing that, like, if you didn't have to do, could give you back an hour of your day or something like that? And so once we identify that, then maybe we could see if AI can help in there. But also like there's a lot of organizations that I work with that don't have a very thorough website or, one that's inviting or one that's user friendly or one that even shares a lot of information of what they actually do. So
Mhm.
I think it's really important to also tackle the website externally, even if people don't visit it. Like I tell my orgs, like, oh, but we don't get any donations there. We don't have anyone who sees it. That's fine. But funders ask for a website. A lot of banks will ask you for your website or anything when they're trying to determine if there's fraud or anything because they need to see that it's an actual like functioning organization. A lot of funders are now asking for social media website for those kinds of things. And so at least for me, like you can use AI as well to help there. And I know that especially for you, like what Privian does and what could really help is also being able to give the right information to someone who comes without having to take away time for you. But internally also, like I always say, like before you do anything external, make sure your team is 100% ready to take it, to knows what to do, knows how to answer, knows what to expect. And I think operationally, AI is really an important tool.
So you mentioned about how it's really important how companies have a good website, right? And I think
Mm.
there's a lot of things that have to go into play. Like, for example, I know a lot of companies use AI as a web widget within their website. However, this would only work if people are going on the website. So it does go hand in hand. So you definitely need your marketing in place. You definitely need your branding in
Mhm.
place. And then naturally, this AI agent can be used as a lead magnet. You also mentioned
Mhm.
about different agents being used for internal purposes, right? So there's a
Mhm.
lot of processes, or I would like to say a lot of documents that have to be referenced on a daily basis that sometimes it's really hard to go to a Dropbox and then a Google Drive or just find it in different folders where if you can have an agent that can make it so accessible within, a conversation, why not have it? So I like the same approach you said in using it with internal teams. So I think that's a huge value add. When it comes to AI, and I know you said right now your industry is receiving it really well. However, what are some misconceptions or what are some worries that people within the nonprofit world might be having about AI?
Maybe that it's secure. I think people don't understand a lot of what these how these platforms are built. So I tend to say, like, if you're gonna use Gemini or Claude or whatever you're gonna use, like, do the paid version, learn about the settings, set it up to protect your information. So I think there is a misconception about just using it, and a lot of the people I work with don't tend to think about cybersecurity or how the models are learning from the information that you put in there. So I tend to spend some time explaining them how these work, why it's free,
Hmm.
and why they should invest in it, right? Because it's really an investment. Any type of AI tool that you use is really an investment because it's supposed to help whatever task you're at. I think another misconception is that, especially how I've seen it used, is that it's gonna be right. So I think I mentioned this in my earlier exercises. You can read a grant, right? Like, a lot of organizations will use it for a grant. Like, here's this grant application, write it for me. And then they'll leave it as is. And I've been on the other side where I've reviewed grants either for helping, I've been contracted before to help with, like, helping them write their reports, and then I'll ask for the original application, and I'm like, "Oh my god, they totally used ChatGPT." And then I'm like, which is fine, fine,
Hmm.
but ChatGPT will be like, "Our KPIs for our grants are that we are going to save the world through our program." And I'm like, "That's not realistic," right? So I spent a lot of time with my RAs like, yes, it's fast. Yes, it's a great tool. Prompting is an art, right? So, like,
Hmm.
uh, you have to learn the prompts. You have to feed it the right information or else it'll make it up. I think that's a huge misconception in our world. It's like, oh, we could just use it and ChatGPT will do it for you. At the end of the day, there still needs to be that human eye that you need to review. Make sure, especially if you're going to use it for a lot of orgs will use it for grants, like, make sure you review what you're promising the funder to do with that money. Because ChatGPT will absolutely promise world peace. And you
Yes.
can't do that. So staying true to
Hmm.
what your program actually does is important. Yeah, I think those are two things that
Hmm.
tend to come to mind.
No, awesome. No, thank you so much for sharing. So, can you also kind of go over how is it that you're using AI on a kind of day-to-day basis? Just some things
Y-
that we can learn as well.
Yeah, I use it, I also have a podcast, and there's AI tools there to extract the right videos, the right files, because again, being a business owner, small business owner, an entrepreneur, like, you're the salesperson, the marketing, all of the things. So I use it in my day-to-day for all of my marketing needs, for I use Canva as well for a lot of my designs, and they've rolled out a lot of really great AI tools to help put together different assets. But I would say, like, I use Monday.com for a project management tool, and so the AI tool is really great for creating intake forms or anything like that. And then my final one is obviously, and my favorite is, I call them employee of the year, is ChatGPT. They're organizing everything by projects, making sure all of my client stuff is in there, and Everybody uses the workspace and we're not sharing passwords. Like my team and I have like a very organized system, but that's just one of the ways I use it on my day to day.
It's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then for the listeners who are listening, can you give them like a practical takeaway that they can apply today? And thinking about your audience as well, even for those who are in the nonprofit industry, like what would it be?
Yeah, I would say be open to AI. It's not going anywhere. I would say if there was anything you'd want to take a class on or anything that you'd want to learn more is really understand how AI works because that could help the way you prompt, the way you utilize it, and the way that you can see it in your day-to-day life. So take some courses, there's a lot on YouTube, there's a lot in the internet, and I would say it's not going away. It's the future of working. A lot of people are like, oh, we're going to be replaced by AI. And that's not necessarily true. You're probably going to get replaced by people who have experience working with AI, both on the way that it's used, again, operationally and internally, but even the way it's used in the day to day. So I would say get to know what AI is, how it works, play with different platforms. A lot of them do trials, but your best bet is to also like, okay, if I'm going to use ChatGPT, like I'm going to do the paid version. I'm going to make sure I protect everything. I'm going to make sure I organize everything. I'm going to make sure I start doing it because also like you can create projects in ChatGPT and give it rules and instructions. And so that might help. We use it, I didn't say this there before, but like I use it for creating my proposals. So I have a template. And so now it understands my tone and how we write and different things that we put in our proposals or templates for clients. But if there's a takeaway is learn it. Like go out there, take some classes, understand how it works, understand the power, and how can you implement it so that you could take away some of the hats that you wear.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. You also mentioned earlier you have your own podcast. So for those tuning in, how is it that they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at www.palantenonprofits.com. My podcast name is Palante Nonprofits. I work with a lot of especially like leaders, executive directors who come in there and share a little bit about what they do. And you can find us on Instagram. That's probably where we're the most active.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ortega. I truly do appreciate your time and all those gems that you gave us. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the next episode. If you're interested in how AI can be used in your business or at work, I'd love to help you understand what that really looks like. I made a free tool called the AI Audit Assistant. It asks you a few simple questions that shows you exactly where your business is leaking time or money and where automation can help. It's simple, it's fast, and completely free. Just click the link below and enter your name and email, and I'll send your audit agent straight to your inbox. And if you got value from this conversation, subscribing really helps this channel grow. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next episode.